Hello gorgeous people who love to scrap. It's Va from Australia and welcome to Va's ragdoll tutorial finally. I don't sound that excited today because I'm really tired. I've been really busy all week pretty much, and today it's a little bit overcast outside and we've just been flat out busy, so I'm going to make it today that it is the day that I do my tutorial, and today is Monday. Monday the 12th, and I'm going to be sharing this tutorial that we have all been waiting for a long time, and I do apologize if it's been taken a while for me to put this together. Like I've always said, you know, I don't do a lot of tutorials because I don't have time to sit and do all the parts with you guys. You know, when I'm craft or when I do something, I tend to just do it then and there, within the next couple of hours, if I got enough time to spare, and just complete a project just then and there pretty much also. So just spend some time today just to do this tutorial with you guys, and then it's back to the farm again this afternoon. And as you can see, Va's hands are getting tattered, looking, it's a bit blurred now because it's focused at the background there, but my hands are getting really worn because we're doing a lot of weeding at the moment. It's spring summertime here, and the farm's doing really well, picking up. Plants are growing really well, so I'll be able to share some parts of my farm with you guys soon. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and start this tutorial that I have planned for you guys. So I hope that you guys are excited as I am, and I hope that you guys have all got all your necessary doodads ready, like your calico fabric, your tea dye fabric, and your sewing machine, thread and cotton if you haven't got a sewing machine, scissors and embellishments and stuff like that that you want to make the skirt or the dress from. With the eyes, you can create them anything that you like. You can paint the face, you can use pearls like I have, you can use buttons, whatever you have in your stash. So let's go ahead and start the tutorial. Okay, so here we have a pattern that I have created just for the purpose of this tutorial. In the past, I have just used as like a really basic pattern that I've just used for the body, and for the arms and the legs I pretty much just measure as I go, and that's pretty much it. But to make it easier for my viewers, my subbies, as well as my gorgeous friends who want to learn how to make this gorgeous rag doll, I've actually gone ahead and made a pattern also. So you guys can click the link down below and it will take you to this particular file, and you will be able to print this out on your laptop or your computer, and you'll be able to cut along the solid lines. So cut along the solid lines. Where I've indicated the dotted line is where you would sew, okay? So don't cut along there, cut along the actual solid lines of the whole pattern, for the body, for the arms and the feet also. You would only need one of each, and then you'll just have to double up your fabric to cut 2 pieces for each front and back side, okay? So I'll take you more into details of that in a minute, but go ahead and print this out from the link below and then cut around the solid lines, okay? And then you will get something that looks like that, and then you will get that for the feet, and you will get the arms also. These are the original ones that I've worked off just for purpose of this tutorial. So you will go ahead and double up your fabric for the body. So for the body, all you need to do is fold your fabric in half like that. Try and make it as close as you can to the size of your rag doll or to the pattern. Like, I mean, don't use too much fabric like that. Let me try and get into more frame. Okay, what I mean more by that is try and keep it as close as you can to the pattern size so that you don't waste too much fabric. From there, you can pin both your fabric together. I always do things freestyle without pinning and stuff like that, because I tend to, you know, just work around that. That's pretty much how VAR works. But for people who want to be very careful so that you can cut out the perfect shade and all that, you can pin it down and then cut around it. Or the other option is you can draw around your pattern and then pin the sides, and then you can cut it out, okay? And then what you will get from there is a pattern that looks like some cutouts that look like this. You will need 2 individual pieces for the body, okay? That's the body as well as the head. You will need 2 individual pieces of that, okay? So that's what you would do for the body. For the arms and the legs, so get your patterns ready. For the arm and the legs, I've indicated where you would need the fold to be, okay? Where I've got the lines is where you will stitch, okay? Where I've got here, where it says folded side, that is where you will fold the fabric, okay? So let me zoom in. Okay, so cut out your fabric. You will need just one of each, but double your fabric, okay? So here we're going to double our fabric. You are working from right to left to fold, okay? So from the right side, fold your fabric over like this. It won't work if you do it the other way, because your folds will be in the wrong place and your arms will turn into the wrong side. So just do as what Val says and you'll be fine. So fold your fabric in half from right to left, okay? And place your pattern on top like this. Okay, where I've got the arrow folded side, see where it's got the fold there. This is the open side, you want the fold side. So just make sure you don't waste too much fabric. Along the fold side, once you've got that down, you can pin it and then you can draw over the top. But I'm just going to go and draw quickly over the top like this to get my pattern. Stay on the lines, okay? You don't want to draw outside the lines, because then your pattern will be too big. And then from there you can pin it, but Val's just going to go straight ahead and just cut it. But be very careful to hold your fabric together, okay? So just cut along the lines and keep your fabric together so that one side's not bigger than the other. It'd look a bit silly if it was. And then cut up. If you have a craft mat or whatever, just do work on that. It's easier than working on fabric like Val has here, okay? But I'm doing tutorial on what space I could find, and this is the only space that I could find right now. So that's what you would need, and you will need 2 of these. So you will need 2 arms and you will need 2 feet, okay? So once you've cut 2 arms and 2 feet, we'll be right back to show you the next procedure. Okay, here in front of me we have all our pieces to form the body, okay? You will have 2 individual pieces for the body and the head. You will need 2 pieces for the arm and 2 pieces for the leg, folded in half like I have indicated on my pattern. So be very careful where the folds and where the openings are, okay? Or you have it back to front. So, and then from there, if you have one of those chalk pens, you can actually mark where you're going to sew. Val's just going to eyeball it because that's usually what I do. But you see here where I've marked the lines, that's how far you would need to sew to get the perfect size for your dolly's body, okay? Even on the actual body itself here, all the measurements are perfect, and it will give you the right proportions for all the matching pieces to form your doll, okay? You can draw along it with one of those chalk pens or stuff like that so that it rubs off. You have to be very careful if you're using one of these pens like this, because where the line is where you sew. If you go too far, if you sew too far out from the line, once you turn the fabric over, you're going to see all the lines, so be very careful. But what I usually do is I know how far that I've got to sew in. With the arms and the legs, you need to sew in at least 1 centimeter away from the edge, okay? So 1 centimeter, just measure or eyeball 1 centimeter around the edge and sew along there to where from the opening to where the end of the opening is, okay? So sew along there and along here, okay? The same with the legs, where the opening edge is, just eyeball 1 centimeter away from the opening and sew all the way down on your sewing machine. Or if you want to do it, if you haven't got a sewing machine and you want to do hand stitch only, you can do an in and out stitch or a back stitch, as some people call it also, or you can do an in and out stitch, a running stitch, but try and do it very, very close together, because if you space your running stitch too far apart, your doll is going to have wadding or stuffing sticking out of its legs or arms. It's best to use a sewing machine, but if you haven't got one and you want to do a running stitch only, do your spacing as close as you can together. It will take a bit longer, but you know, the more love you put into this doll, the better and the unique this doll is going to be, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and sew along all the opening sides of where I've indicated on my pattern here for you to sew, as well as on my dolly here. As you notice, there's a space between the arm This is base here, that's where the arms go, and there's no stitch lines down the bottom here. That's where the legs will go in, and then you will sew the final stitch down the bottom here. Okay, so but that's in the next procedure. Now what we're going to do is sew around the dotted lines of where I have indicated on your pattern, and then you will fold your pattern over. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and sew along the dotted lines on where I've indicated on all the pieces, and we'll be right back. Okay, I've already gone ahead and sewed them on my sewing machine where I've indicated on the pattern where you will sew, just against the side that opens. So sew along that and down the bottom. Try not to make sharp edges. You see where I've got the corners down here? It's better to sew round corners instead of sharp corners, because if you do sharp corners, it's going to be really pointy, really sharp, and it's not going to look that great on the arm especially. So be careful when you're rounding that off. The feet is okay to make sharp edges, but on the arm it's not as nice to make sharp edges. You see there? It's better to round them off, but it doesn't really matter. The other quick tip that you guys always should remember is also, if you do use a dark pen to mark, always trim where you've got the dark pen marks, because then once you fold it inside out, you're still gonna see the dark color, because the fabric is really light. So I've noticed that on these particular two pieces that I didn't cut away from the line, I cut on the line, so in some areas you can still see the dark lines, so just be very careful with that. And then what I usually use to turn my parts inside out is just a chopstick. So just use the table as resistance, or your tummy, where I like to use it for resistance, and just poke that out like that. You see, it's nice and easy, and just pokes your edges out. And on that one again, just fold it inside out to start you off, wiggle it down. And if you don't have a chopstick, you can just use whatever other poking tool that you might have, but chopsticks come in really handy for me. So I've got all my parts ready here. We've got the feet that I've turned inside out. We've got the arms here that I've turned inside out. You can cut all the little threads off. Usually I don't cut the threads from the inside, because you know they're going to be inside, they're going to be hiding, so you can't see them anyway. So two arms, 2 feet, and then we've got the body here to turn over. So start from the bottom, turn inside out. Then again, you can use a chopstick to poke on the edges, just to make the corners all nice and round. You can use your iron if you like, but it's not necessary, because when you stuff it with your wadding or your stuffing, it's gonna expand it anyway, so it's gonna make it puff out, so it doesn't really matter. So the important part is, you see the opening where we've left for the arms, tuck that straight back in and just form a crease so that it's in line with your shoulder. You see there? Tuck that in and just make a crease, okay? So that it lines up with the shoulder as well as where you stitch down the bottom. Hope you guys can see there, okay? Then on this side, poke that in. Just find the edge where you have sewed that and push that in, and then just line it up with the bottom, stitching down the bottom there, and just crease it with your hand, and you will have a nice space where you can stick the arms in once you stuff it. Okay, from there you can get some stuffing. I like to use stuffing from recycled pillows, or an old pillow or an old cushion that you're not using anymore. So just grab some stuffing, just slightly soften them up, and start stuffing your arm pieces and your legs. And again, I like to use a chopstick to help guide it in. Oop. Start off with just a little bit like that, and once you kind of like get it in, just get your chopstick and then push it all the way through, and you will go ahead and stuff the arms, the legs, the body you would leave till last, because that is the last part that you will need to assemble the body and sew it together. Okay, so you stuff all your 4 pieces of both arms and both legs, and I'll be right back once I've stuffed that up to share with you guys the next procedure. Okay, I have gone ahead and stuffed all my pieces already. Don't overstuff them, make them really, really puffy. You want to give them a bit of body, but not too much at the same time. Just nice and soft, not too hard. Too hard, it would be too fat and looks like your doll's probably swollen up. So not too much, okay? Just enough that it fills up all the spaces pretty much. And not too much towards the end also, because towards the end here you're going to stick it into the main body itself and you're going to sew along it also. So you're going to leave about 1 centimeter where you have no stuffing in there, probably 1.5 centimeter where it's got no stuffing on all of the edges. You see here, down here is hard, but towards the end here, you see that part's soft. There's not much down there at all. So the next part to do to continue from here is find your arms. Okay, what you're going to assemble is your arms into the body like that. The reason why I like to do my arms and legs separately is so that you give your dolly the mobility to be able to move like this, which is a lot better. Imagine if your dolly's stiff, to do that would be like that, really hard. So you want flexibility to move. You see how her legs is freely kicking and her arms are freely waving, so no restriction whatsoever. So if you join the body and your arms together all in one piece and you're trying to bend that at the same time, it will bend, but look at it how it flips back like that. It will go boing back like that. So I prefer to do mine separately so they've got movement also. I've gone ahead and made one previously so that you guys can have an indication of what I mean. You see how it moves freely like that, which is a lot nicer, and your dolly just has more mobility that way. So the next part is to connect your arms and your legs together. Okay, so where you've got the stitching is on the underarm. The stitching goes underneath so that you have the nice round surface at the top there. So that goes into that arm. So stick your stuffing in, and then where you've left the hole, stick it into the hole. Stick it into the hole like that. Kind of like push it in and then bring it back out again, and just be very careful that you don't bring it too far back out, because you want it to stay inside so that you can sew along here also. So that is pretty much it. From there you can pin it together, or you can do a running stitch to hold it together, but I just go straight like this to the sewing machine, because once I lock it down like that on the sewing machine, I can just do a running stitch down here on my sewing machine, a straight stitch, and that just holds it into place. So if you're not used to this, because I've made a couple already, just do a running stitch in and out, or you can pin it with your needles and then just sew on your sewing machine as close as you can to the edge here. You don't want it too far out here because the fabric might pop out. So as close as you can to the edge here, and I'll be right back to show you once I've done that side and the other side also. Okay, so just to share with you guys again, I'll do the other side. So find your arm, find where the side where you stitched is under her arm. Okay, so the nice round part at the top and where you stitch underneath her arm, push the stuffing in so you've got a bit of room there. Okay, and stick that inside like that, not too far in. You don't want it to go too far in or her arm would be too short, just up until where you left enough room where it's soft there, and then you will sew both arms in. Okay, so once I've done that, I'll come back and share with you guys the next procedure. Okay, so I've already gone ahead and attached her arms on and sewn a straight stitch down. Just be very careful when you're sewing that, or when you're tacking them together, that they're both leveled down, because you don't want to sew one side and then you've missed on the other side. Just be very careful that way. Okay, so when you're sewing down here, just to try and catch both sides at the same time, so you don't have to have too many stitches on there. Okay, so the next part, what you would do now is you can go ahead and stuff the body. So get some more stuffing and soften it up like I have here, then stuff that up, stuff the body. So grab more stuffing. To soften it up, just breaks the fibers in the cushion or the pillowcase that you're recycling, and that just makes her really soft and full and fluffy at the same time. And push it all the way up to the head. You see what I mean about you don't need to iron, because all the stuffing that's going to go in there is going to make her nice and full like that. Look, she looks like an angel already. Floating on clouds. So push them all in like that. Just make sure that you poke them in all the areas where it needs to be filled up, like all the head parts and stuff like that, her cheeks, because you need nice wide cheeks. So push them towards the side at the very top. And her body, so you see how it's starting to form shape? She's looking great. You're bringing life to a beautiful rag doll that you can, you know, share with your loved ones. And just makes it so much more special that way. So she's looking good. Just a little bit more for her body. Not too much because you don't want her to be too fat, okay? I usually just press it down to level it up. The back and the front side also. Like that. There should be enough stuffing for this particular dolly. You don't want it to be too much or else she looks like she's really fat. See all the other dollies that I've made, their stuffing's just like perfect. They're not too much. And she's nice and soft. You don't want it hard. You want it to be soft still so she's cuddly and soft at the same time. Okay, just push that and make sure that I have all the stuffings in the right places. You don't want one area to have too much and then one area to not have enough, and then your dolly's body would be like out of proportion. You see how that's nicely stuffed? There we go. Just play around with the stuffing. In some areas it's going to look full, in some areas it's going to look really soft. Just play around with it. So this particular part down the bottom, once you stuff it the way that you like it, you're going to be folding it inwards like this, and you're going to form a crease. Fold it in and you're going to form a crease like that, because that forms the bottom of your dolly. And then we're going to put the legs in here, okay? So you just form a crease like that. From here, it doesn't really matter which side you use as your front or your back. They're both exactly the same. So once you've creased that and turned that in, you're going to get your feet. These are the matching feet to her. You see this dolly that I've made earlier, she has darker skin. You see here? It depends on your calico. This one here has slightly darker calico, and this one has a lighter, softer calico there. So it really depends on your fabric that you're using. So from there, where the stitching is, that's going to be the back of the legs. See how it's got the nice heel there? I was talking to you guys about the heel before. It just gives her height. That just goes in there like that. I'm going to get some pins, and I'll definitely have to pin this in because it's a wider space and we want it to be nicely positioned. You see there? Our little dolly's kind of like coming together really well. So I'll be right back once I've pinned that, okay?